Shalom, brothers and sisters. So I did tell you yesterday and warn you we're going to talk Israel today, and there is a lot. And this is just the last 2 to 3 days catching up on Israel and what's going on there. It is crazy. Why is it crazy? Because everything is converging and everything is happening faster and faster. Even though people seem to be sleeping through it, things are just speeding up, and it is insane for all of us who are watching. So I'll begin this discussion, chat, time of fellowship that we're having around these stories, and when I give you my opinion with saying the following: Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel lives. And God made that happen. Regardless of who the world said made it happen, God orchestrated this perfectly, and it all lines up. We've discussed Abraham 1948, Israel 1948. You know the connections. God made this happen. And Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel lives. They will not be wiped out. They will not be driven into the sea. The Lord who watches over them does not slumber nor sleep. So let's dive right in. Get comfortable. As Watchman River says many times, maybe grab a coffee. Let's sit down and go through these together. The first one. The U.S. is occupying Palestine, not Israel. This is Abbas. Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas accused the U.S. of occupying Palestine while denying Israel's independence at a conference in Ramallah on Tuesday. According to the PA's summer news outlet, Abbas made the comments as part of his address at the Digital Life and Creativity Conference in Ramallah Tuesday afternoon. Abbas accused Israel of limiting civil rights for women, claiming that women in the Palestinian Authority enjoy greater rights than women in the Jewish state. This man is so confused. It's hard to wrap your brain around how confused he is. And where does this confusion come from? Besides the fact that the father of confusion and lies is the devil, is his deep-rooted hatred, which literally is what he uses to get up in the mornings, and that hatred towards Israel, that he spews this vitriol and bile and lies about Israel every chance he gets. Women, Islamic women, have better freedoms than women in Israel? Come on. Seriously? In some Muslim countries, they're not even allowed to have education past a certain age or drive. Israel, the woman can carry automatic weapons and serve in the military or be pilots. I don't understand what he's getting at, but he's pointing at something the leftists did, and we'll touch on this later in this pile of news stories that they are now using as another chance to try and say something evil about Israel. Abbas accused Israel of limiting the civil rights of women. The 87-year-old PA chairman linked the claim to clashes in Tel Aviv last week, which broke out between worshippers praying during the Yom Kippur holiday and left-wing activists who tore down the makeshift divider between female and male worshippers. Jews against Jews. This is what the left in Israel, with funding from America and other countries, has accomplished. Abbas went on to deny Israeli independence, calling the idea a big lie. Furthermore, Abbas said Israel's not the primary power responsible for the occupation, rather the United States is to blame. America is the one occupying Palestine. In August, he claimed Adolf Hitler was justified in persecuting Jews, denying the Holocaust was motivated by bigotry or racial hatred, and arguing instead that the Nazi Party targeted Jews because of the negative economic role they played in Germany. So if you do things economically bad in a country, you deserve to go into an oven and be gassed. That's pretty much his kind of reckoning in this hateful little brain of his. It's absolutely crazy. And all of this evil that he's spouting at their Digital Life and Creativity Conference in Ramallah. This is one of their leaders. Please come to the Digital Life and Creativity Conference. Can you speak for us? Awesome. He's going to speak about something from a leadership perspective on digital life and creativity. How about let's get into the digital world Let's see what we can do for our people digitally and inspire people and get jobs and markets. Let's be creative in how we alleviate suffering and create jobs and improve infrastructure. Digital life, creativity. No. Use the podium as another opportunity to spout the same evil against Israel every opportunity he gets. You understand what I say, that evil and hatred has overtaken this man? It's all he can talk about or think about is another opportunity to spout this at Israel. It's actually quite sad. Can you imagine living with that much hatred in your heart constantly, all the time, and that against Israel? Blessings and curses. Okay, why the imbalance, the bias against Israel is obviously driven by Satan's desire to invalidate God's word. In 2022, the United Nations General Assembly, United Nitwits, passed more resolutions critical of Israel than any other nations combined. The General Assembly approved 15 anti-Israel resolutions last year, compared to 13 resolutions criticizing other countries, according to UN Watch. 15 against Israel, 13 for the rest of the world. Russia was the focus of 6 resolutions condemning its invasion of Ukraine. North Korea, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Syria, Iran, and the US were hit with 1 resolution each. I mean, come on, Iran. Anyway. Saudi Arabia, China, Lebanon, Turkey, Venezuela, and Qatar, which have poor human rights records or involved in regional conflicts, were not dinged by any resolutions criticizing them. And let's not even get into China and how they handle like the Uyghurs and other beliefs that stand up and try and worship or do anything. It is ridiculous, but not a single resolution against them. Why the imbalance? Why is there no resolutions against countries that execute dissidents? The question becomes perplexing because you consider that Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East, the only country that practices free religion in that entire area. Israel is pivotal to end times scenario and the central focus of the coming Great Tribulation. Psalms 94 verse 14 in the King James Version, for the Lord, Yahweh, will not cast off his people, neither will he forsake his inheritance. People tend to forget these scriptures or the promises God made to the nation of Israel. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He made these promises. He told them that even the stars will pass away before they end. They will be there at the end of the tribulation. So all the devil needs to do, which he can't, is wipe them out to the last man, woman, child, and any pets they have. Get rid of them. Remove their name. Wipe them out. Then he can say to God, where's your promise now? Where's your nation that you began with? And he can't do it, because the God of Israel does not slumber nor sleep, people. Our God is in control. Next, Syria accuses 2 Syrian soldiers. Oh, they accuse 2 Syrian soldiers were injured in Israeli airstrikes. I'm sure the Israelis are trying hard not to injure you in their airstrikes. It's an airstrike. Someone's going to get hurt, especially if you're standing next to an Iranian weapon shipment. Odds are greatly against you. You don't need to go to a seer to find out if you have a long life ahead of you. Syrian media reported on Monday that Israel launched airstrikes against several Syrian army posts near Deir ez-Zor. The Syrian military official said around 11:50 p.m. Israel attacked several targets of our forces in the area of the city. 2 Syrian soldiers injured. Property was also damaged. Earlier in the week, Syrian media reported that the Israeli Air Force carried out an attack near the Al-Assad and Al-Dimas villages west of Damascus. Damascus will become a ruinous heap. It's prophecy. It's going to happen soon. It is practically already a ruinous heap. The reports claimed the attack targeted an Iranian arms shipment. Again, people, common sense, even if you hate them. Iranian shipment arrives, couple of minutes later or hours later, Hayl Ha'avir, Israeli Air Force, arrives. Boom. That is the process. It's been the process all along. Or artillery. It's always going to be the process. There isn't a big change. There hasn't been an addendum. They're not doing an exercise where they're working on their pronouns. They're going with Mossad, doing the intelligence, and they're hitting anything Iran is trying to do there with weapons. Common sense is absent there at the moment. So there's that. Netanyahu convenes top security chiefs amid elevated threats. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday held a high-ranking security consultation amidst ongoing terrorist threats from Judea and Samaria, the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip, as Iran presses forward with its nuclear program. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, and Israel Security Agency Shin Bet Director Ronan Bar were among those attending the meeting. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir was conspicuously absent. Now, the reason he was absent is the following. He comes to meetings and constantly strives for targeted assassinations. Good idea, cut the head off the snake. He also pushes for a ban on bringing in workers from Gaza and various closures on all kinds of villages and cities in Judea and Samaria, according to a source. He does not understand that with such a policy, the Prime Minister cannot fly anywhere, and he certainly will not be granted receptions around the world, says the source. The meeting comes amid heightened tensions on Israel's borders to the north, east, and west. Gazans had until last week staged nearly daily riots along the frontier, targeting Israeli forces with explosive devices, gunfire, and incendiary balloons. Israeli authorities on Thursday reopened the Eretz crossing, the Jewish state's sole pedestrian crossing with the Palestinian enclave, after terrorist groups agreed to temporarily halt the rioting. I wouldn't negotiate with terrorists. I know Israel shouldn't either, and I know America used to have this as their tagline: we don't negotiate with terrorists. But since Iran's been given $1 billion per person and then some, that's obviously out the window. But yeah, really, and you can't trust the terrorists' words, so it's dangerous. Now the crossing is open, they have an opportunity to send people in again. So they're always working on a plan to spread more terror, and they use anyone that they can touch. Men, women, children are attacking, because when the world sees an IDF soldier attacking a woman that seems to be a frail old woman, there's an uproar. What they don't show you is that woman with the kitchen knife stabbing him first a few times before he attacked her, or trying to stab a civilian or blow something up. That they don't share. They just share the image of the woman or the young child being attacked by the Israelis. And that propaganda is pushed, and the UN gets behind that, and everybody pushes this. Why? Because there's a concerted effort by evil to destroy Israel. Not just physically, but in the eyes of the world. And again, Jerusalem will be a cup of trembling, and we are seeing that now more than ever. IDF reportedly strikes Iranian weapon shipment near Damascus, right? We've covered that. Israeli forces destroy weapon manufacturing machines in the West Bank in a coordinated operation involving the IDF, the Israeli police, and Shin Bet. 5 weapon manufacturing lathes were located and destroyed in the village of Baitonia. The operation led to the arrest of 2 individuals wanted in various cases through the West Bank, according to a statement from the IDF. So, successful operation again. Iran attacks the impending Israel-Saudi peace as Gallant is invited to the US. The big drama here is that the US is taking it upon itself to protect Saudi Arabia against Iran, National Security Council advisor Tsahi Hanechbi said. Islamic countries that move towards normalized ties with the Zionist regime are on a reactionary and regressive path, Raisi said on Sunday. Raisi called on the community of Islamic believers to unite against the crimes committed by the agents of the United States and the Zionist regime, as he emphasized the importance of freeing Palestine and Jerusalem. The terrorist of all terrorists, trying to bring peace and stability to the region and wipe Israel out and free Palestine and Jerusalem. I think not. Seriously. And remember that rightful prince that's living in exile in America that should be in Iran. What a good twist that'll be if they could get rid of Raisi and all those things, Antichrist, and bring him back and he rules over his people in peace with Israel. All these chips fit and come together nicely for an end time scenario, and it's all there. He's the king of Iran in waiting. Watch that space. Then Israel has inked the largest defense deal in its history. Only 80 years since the end of the Second World War, yet Israel and Germany join hands in building a safer future for both nations, said Gallant. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on Thursday in Berlin signed the agreement to approve Israel's Arrow 3 missile defense system to Germany. The estimated value of $3.5 billion, the deal is the largest of its kind in Israel's history. The Arrow 3 for Germany is the biggest agreement signed to date, and we are committed to a timely and effective delivery. This agreement is tangible evidence that Israel and Germany are true partners, Gallant said. Just as the Arrow 3 guards Israel's skies and saves lives, now it will also defend Germany and its citizens and may integrate smoothly with NATO systems. Now, the interesting thing for me, which really excites me, and we'll get into it on another video because this one's running long because of how much news there is, but these missiles are named Arrow. Now, you read the Bible back a couple of years that say, they read something like Gog and Magog attacking, and God says he will smack their arrows out of the way or disable their arrows or knock them out of the path. And people think, but come on, look at the technology. How would people still be fighting with bows and arrows? Here we have arrows. Arrow missiles. Arrows that will be used against other nations. And we're back by arrows. God's word is never wrong. It's always right. And again, we'll delve into it deeper in a separate video, but it's hilariously exciting for me how all these things come together, like Macron also referring to the need for a revived Roman Empire. Come on, people, wake up. It's happening all around us. All the pieces are slotting together. Shake someone. Some cold water maybe. I don't know what it needs, but okay. Next one, roll call of over 90 nations opens Jerusalem session of Feast of Tabernacles. The opening celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles in Jerusalem saw representatives from 19 nations present their flags in Israel's capital's Pais Arena on Sunday evening. Thousands of pilgrims made their way all over the world to attend the ICEJ annual event in Jerusalem. The event at the arena marks the first portion of the Jerusalem feast location, which initially began in the north at the Sea of Galilee on Friday. The evening began with recorded greetings by President Isaac Herzog, as well as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who caused everyone to erupt into applause. The main event, though, is what I want to get to here. The roll call of nations. Each nation's representative presented their flag on stage, beginning with the region of the world where the day begins, namely the Pacific Islands. One of the year's largest delegations came from Fiji, including the Fijian Deputy Prime Minister Velami Gavoka, who is leading his government's effort to open an embassy in Jerusalem. The island nation chartered a special flight from Fiji Airways to bring over 200 Christian pilgrims to Israel for this feast. Joining them were a handful of Fijian soldiers who are part of the United Nations peacekeeping force stationed in the Golan Heights in northern Israel. And among the evening's most moving sights, this right here gives me cold shivers, because I see how all these things are going to come together so perfectly, the way God said it would. Were the flags of hostile nations presented in Jerusalem, flags of Iran, North Korea, Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan as neighbors as well. All of them were there representing. All of them saying, here we are and we love Israel. There are those people in place in those countries all supporting and praying for Israel. And all of it was on display there, which was absolutely beautiful to see. Then MKs are petitioning Netanyahu to improve treatment of the Jews at Temple Mount. So what's that about? If the Jews go to Temple Mount, they suffer a lot of attack from their own people and soldiers, and then they've got the Muslims on top of the mount to deal with, and the whole Palestinian Authority. It's chaos at the moment on a place that is their holiest site. A group of right-wing coalition members of the Knesset, led by Simcha Rothman, sent a letter to Netanyahu and Israel Police Chief Kobi Shabtai demanding an examination of the treatment of Jewish visitors to the Temple Mount by police officers. Copies of the letter were sent to the Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and National Security Committee Chairman Zvichka Fogel. The letter says, such a reality after 2,000 years of exile cannot happen in the Jewish state. The MKs called for convening the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee to discuss this issue if necessary. The letter related to recent incidents in which religious Jews were attacked while praying at public venues. Last week, the entire nation of Israel, and us among them, was shocked to discover a new reality in the country where Jews praying in the center of the first Hebrew city, Tel Aviv, were beaten and humiliated while Israeli police stood by. At the same time, police use harsh violence against Jews on Temple Mount, the source of our identity and the purpose of our national existence. This reality after 2,000 years of exile cannot be tolerated in a Jewish state. We ask for this to be clarified as soon as possible, and if necessary, convene your meeting of the National Security Committee to discuss the issue. So a lot of upheaval and anger there about that whole incident that went down when the left attacked the religious Jews while they were busy with their Yom Kippur situation. It's just, it's sad and insane at the same time. And they're now using this again, connecting it to Temple Mount and what's happening on Temple Mount. Over 50,000 Jewish worshippers attend the priestly blessing ceremony at the Western Wall. 50,000 worshippers participated in the biannual priestly blessing ceremony, and the tradition was started by the late Rabbi Menachem Mendel Gafni and has continued for 53 years. The priestly blessing ceremony is held during the Feast of Passover and Sukkot and attracted large crowds in the past. Monday morning ceremony was attended by Israel's chief rabbis, Chief Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef, Rabbi David Lau, Rabbi Shmuel Rabinowitz, and Rabbi of the Western Wall and the Holy Sites and Jerusalem Mayor Moshe Leon. Western Wall Rabbi Shmuel Rabinowitz told the gathered worshippers, "This year we received more than anything the blessing of Yahweh, and he shall give you peace." Obviously they don't use the name Yahweh. This is a prayer that we all carry in our hearts to our Father in heaven, asking him to remove baseless hatred from us and to spread the sukkah of peace over us. Jewish man arrested for attempting to bring a sacrifice to the temple. This nation is like, when you walk your dogs and you've got them on a leash and they're pulling you because they're so excited and they just want to go, that you really struggle to hold on. For those of you who have got dogs, I've got cats. If I put a leash on my cat, he flops on the ground, it's over. But you get the idea. That's what it's like in Israel at the moment, with the run and the rush and the push and the desire to build their temple like never before. Yair Hanoch, an activist from the Return to the Mount organization, was arrested at the rail station near the old city of Jerusalem while bringing a male sheep to the Temple Mount with the intention of providing it for a sacrifice. Return to the Mount advocates for allowing Jews to perform the biblically mandated animal sacrifices on Temple Mount. There is no more room for Muslim rule on the Temple Mount. The time has come to build a Jewish temple and renew the sacrificial works, the organization said after Hanoch's arrest. Raphael Morris, the head of the organization, confirmed the details of the incident, and it is unclear what the man will be charged with, as it's not illegal to have a sheep in Jerusalem, and it wasn't sacrificed, so it's not even an animal cruelty thing yet. But the desire for the temple is there, and it is strong, and it's getting stronger by the minute. And I really think the Saudi-Israeli deal might provide a solution for them to finally get their thing done here, and the Antichrist could put that all together very nicely. Water libation reenactment followed by full dress Levite rehearsal. These people are ready, they're prepared, they're practicing consistently. On Tuesday, a full dress reenactment of the water libation as it was performed in the temple was held in Jerusalem. The event was overseen by Rabbi Yisrael Ariel, the founder of the Temple Institute, and Rabbi Baruch Kahan, who served as the Kohen Gadol, the high priest of the reenactment. The event was not open to the public, so 10 participants attended the drawing of water from the Shiloach Pool, Siloam. The Pool of Siloam was the starting point for the pilgrims who made the annual pilgrimage to Jerusalem for biblical feasts. They would use the pool to wash and ritually purify themselves before ascending. Levites dressed in special garb blew meter-long silver trumpets prepared for use in the third temple as Kohanim, priests. Wearing biblically mandated temple vestments, performed the ceremony of drawing water from the pool in a gold vessel, also prepared for use in the third temple. All these things we're seeing them use in their reenactments, they're going to use in the third temple. After the drawing of the water, the group ascended with song and dance to Gan HaTekuma in the old city of Jerusalem, where a temple reenactment was then held. In the evening, the Levites held a special full dress rehearsal. This group of Levites practices every week in preparation for the third temple. They are that ready and convinced it's happening shortly. They're practicing weekly, not just on feasts, not monthly, weekly. Just think about that for a second. If people say to you, no, it's not going to happen. We are in a religious war, says ultra-orthodox MK. A Haredi lawmaker said that anti-judicial reform protesters are engaged in a religious war, focused on preventing expressions of Judaism in public spaces. This is Israel attacking Israel. MK Moshe Gafni of the United Torah Judaism Party said the Tel Aviv Yom Kippur clashes should be evidence that the demonstrators who claim they are opposed to the ongoing judicial reform legislation are actually just fighting traditional Judaism. You are not referring to judicial reform or anything of the sort. You're waging a religious war against us. What we saw on Yom Kippur in Tel Aviv is proof, Gafni said. Their war is not economic, security, or social. It is religious. That's how you treat it. Last week, left-wing demonstrators, among them members of the Brothers in Arms protest group, physically and verbally attacked Jewish worshippers praying throughout Tel Aviv on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. Jews attacking Jews while they're busy with Yom Kippur. Demonstrators who converged on a prayer session in Dizengoff Square asserted that the worshippers were breaking the law due to the erection of a small mechitza, a divider separating men and women, which is mandatory for Orthodox prayer. So now the left want to break down what they've been doing for thousands of years and destroy it. So Jews attacking Jews. It's really quite ridiculous, but it's backfired on them beautifully. So I'm going to lead that straight into the next one, because the next one tells you just how perfectly that whole situation backfired on them. We the people begin to speak is the article that was posted. On Sunday night, a group of leftist male bullies stormed a movie screening for ultra-orthodox girls and women in Jerusalem to block them from watching a film without males in the room. So the ultra-orthodox had arranged this movie for the women to go and watch together. They can't watch with the male, so they'd arranged this. These guys then came and crashed this to stop it from happening, because they're now trying to unravel the ultra-orthodoxy. Haaretz reporter Yael Friedson cheered them on, writing on Twitter, X, "Neighborhood men appeared at a film screening that was organized for women and girls and prevented the same-sex event from taking place. For those who didn't understand from the events of recent weeks, the contract has been reopened." Friedson's allusion to the contract relates to Israel's social contract, which permits autonomy and use of public spaces for various religious and social sectors in Israel's multicultural society. The leftist insurrection now demands that freedom of access be blocked for the people who aren't like them. Try that in a Muslim country. Their efforts to discredit and demonize Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during his trip to the US, we covered that with everything they went ahead and did. It all backfired. The leftist insurgents intended to leverage the Biden admin's hostility towards Israel to undermine Netanyahu's trip and discredit his leadership, demoralize his domestic and US supporters, and bring about the collapse of his government, as if they were that powerful. Rather than feel demoralized, though, the Israeli public was appalled by the left's efforts and voiced its revulsion to pollsters. On the other hand, Netanyahu's successful meeting with Elon Musk in Silicon Valley and his coordinated presentation of the Saudi-Israeli normalization efforts with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman prevented Israel's detractors in the Biden administration from using Netanyahu's meeting with Joe Biden as a means to diminish or discredit the leader. Netanyahu's triumph in the US showed that he is their greatest statesman at the moment and a credit to their democratic system, as much as they're trying to say he's a dictator. On Yom Kippur, right, the event, and this is what Abbas was referring to as well and now trying to use for his gain. Members of Brothers in Arms, the Kaplan Force, and the left's other paramilitary groups used force and intimidation to ruin and break up public prayers on the holiest day in the Jewish calendar in central and northern Tel Aviv and in other liberal cities and central and northern Israel. A young Mizrahi Jewish man at the prayers in Dizengoff Square in Tel Aviv, surrounded by Ashkenazic rioters screaming at him about "you people," lost his patience and fired back. This is brilliant. I am at Kaplan Street every Saturday. I'm a secular high-tech worker. I live here in Tel Aviv. So who is you people? When you say you people, who are you referring to? Is it the color of my skin? Is it my kippah? Who is you people? Please explain to me, Mr. Enlightened Left, who is you people? Because I'm at Kaplan every Saturday fighting for my democracy, and one day of the year when I decide to put on a kippah, suddenly I'm you people. So that's one of their own that they attacked. The young man was far from alone. A lot of the people who were blocked from praying had until that moment identified with the anti-government protesters. But after Yom Kippur, they realized the protests are not about the balance of powers. They're about the nature of the Jewish state, its literal soul. The people they thought were on their side are actually using them to advance an anti-Jewish agenda that none of them had signed on for. Spearheaded now by Shai Chalach, this is a new guy, former IDF combat pilot, over the past several months and at a much higher velocity over the past several weeks, pilots, academics, physicians, business people have all been coming together with him to stand against Israel's rebellious, hateful, deep-pocketed leftist elites. With limitless funds and media support, though, it's unlikely the riots will not go on. Probably persist for years. But the left's mask of patriotism and liberalism and saving democracy completely shattered. So evil always exposes itself ultimately, and this is just another beautiful example of how they're unraveling themselves by showing exactly who they actually are and what they're trying to destroy. I mean, come on, Yom Kippur, of all times, this is Israel. Their own people were praying and celebrating Yom Kippur, attacked by their own people. And now the joke's up, and people are starting to rise against it. So there's going to be a huge shift in Israel. The dynamics are going to change again. There's going to be a movement away from this. It's going to be interesting to watch. And again, we know when Antichrist steps on the scene after us that he will smooth all these things out and fix these things as he puts together his fake peace to everyone's benefit. And ultimately, a deal with death and Hades. Then we'll just end off with the situation for Christians in Israel at the moment, which sadly is also as expected. Spitting on Christians in Jerusalem is not criminal, says Ben-Gvir. Now, when I saw this one, I just smiled, because I told you right in the beginning when Ben-Gvir was given power for the first time who he is, that he was one of the heads of Kach, and I had a run-in with Kach many years ago. Kach is very militant, very anti-Jesus Christ and Christianity, very anti-missionaries, and that same feeling and belief system and everything is still within this man, Ben-Gvir. He is not a friend of Christians, the truth, or Jesus Christ in any way or form. And people need to remember that, because very often he does things we agree with and absolutely is necessary for Israel. But do remember, he is no friend of the believer. And this headline again just proves it. Israelis were spotted spitting in the direction of Christians in occupied East Jerusalem again on Wednesday, days after similar attacks, defended by the National Security Minister as not criminal, has led to widespread condemnation. Israeli police said it detained at least 4 people involved in the spitting incidents, a 5th person detained for spitting at Christians on Monday. You go watch the videos, it's really quite sad and ridiculous. However, Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel's national security minister who oversees the police, said in an interview that spitting on Christians was not a criminal case, and not everything justifies an arrest. He said the incidents were deserving of every condemnation, but urged people to stop slandering Israel. Ben-Gvir previously defended the act of spitting on Christians as an ancient Jewish custom. Yeret said on X that spitting near priests or churches is an ancient Jewish custom. Perhaps under the influence of Western culture, we have forgotten what Christianity is. But I think millions of Jews who suffered in exile from the Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition, blood libels, and mass pogroms will never forget. For them, Christians are always that, nothing else. Meanwhile, Christians are their biggest friends and supporters, and we're family. They just don't see it, so they're pushing us away harder than ever as well. Beware of Christians. Mayor takes aim at missionaries in the Jerusalem March. Jerusalem Deputy Mayor Aryeh King forwarded a video warning that Christian Zionism is a wolf in sheep's clothing. For decades, thousands of Christian lovers of Israel have participated in the Jerusalem March that takes place during Sukkot. They do this in a preemptive fulfillment of Zechariah 14:16, which says, "And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles." Right? This is going to take place after the tribulation, when Jesus comes back and rules for 1,000 years. Those who are left will come up and celebrate tabernacles every year. Then he said, they also do it in repudiation of replacement theology and centuries of Christian mistreatment of the Jewish people, and as part of a broader return to the Hebraic roots of their own faith. Not him, but the Christians. That's why they're doing it. They're getting connected to the root, to their family, to where we come from, and to understand deeper, most amazing gems and things that we do not when we don't bother to learn. But where most Israelis today gratefully see a natural ally, and this includes Netanyahu, if not a sibling in faith, Jerusalem Day Mayor Aryeh King sees mortal danger in a new disguise. In a Facebook post, King warned Jewish residents of Jerusalem to not let their children attend or roam unsupervised. Of the tens of thousands of marchers, there will be a few hundred and maybe even more Christian missionaries who came with the express purpose of making contact with Jews in order to spread their religion. Out of a sense of responsibility for each and every one of my Jewish brothers, I warn you not to send your children alone to the march. Do not fall into the honey traps that the missionaries use. I must also emphasize there will be many Christians marching without a missionary agenda and without negative intentions, so do not take it as a bad thing to make contact with non-Jews during the march. But regarding the missionary organizations, be vigilant and sharpen your senses. They will use all means to make contact with and collect personal information from willing Jews with whom they will try to develop a personal relationship, leading to a dangerous, slippery slope. So King encouraged his followers to watch a short video explaining why Christian Zionists should be considered wolves. In the video, a woman's voice asks, "On Rosh Hashanah, we stood and proclaimed the Holy One to be king over us and the entire world. Can we now, 2 weeks later, stand and watch as Christians proclaim Jesus to be king, and this from our holy city of Jerusalem?" She insisted the answer to this is absolutely no. It was incumbent upon all informed Jews to act to protect the masses of naive Jews who will participate in the march side by side with Christians. As evidence of Christian Zionists being a threat to Jewish people, the video recalled an incident that took place at the tail end of Shavuot, Pentecost, when there was a clash between Jews and missionaries. Now, we covered that on this channel. Those Christians did nothing. They didn't preach. They didn't reach out. They didn't try anything. They were just there having their own event, and the Jews attacked them, the religious Jews, and caused chaos, even breaking some infrastructure. She uses that as an example of the Christians being missionaries to the Jews. So you've got to look at facts of things that actually happened when they spout things, because they're turning things to their agenda to drive the hatred. Opposition lawmaker, Minister of Religious Affairs Matan Kahana later apologized, saying the remarks carried by All Israel News. A few days ago, some extremists shouted at a group of visitors at holy places. I would like to emphasize that shouting at people who are great supporters of Israel is counterproductive. I would like to take the opportunity to apologize for this behavior on behalf of the Knesset. Kahana, who is a religious Jew, had previously told Israeli media about his meetings with evangelical Christians and the importance of their relationship to Israel. I had a very important meeting with Christians and evangelicals who support Israel. This is a very important strategic relationship for the state of Israel, 70 million enthusiastic supporters of the country. But the extremists in Israel that are rising against Christians say, as far as I'm concerned, let every missionary know they are not welcome in the land of Israel. Very soon, they will be gone in the rapture. And then there will be a change of heart very quickly too. And yes, we will proclaim Jesus is King from the holy city of Jerusalem through our brothers and sisters who can be there, because he is. Yeshua Chai, Jesus lives. Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah. He is the King of Kings, and he will come again. And they will not realize this until they say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. Pray for Israel, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and keep watching God's clock, because it is spinning. Shalom.